Day 956 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 660,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,250 in the past day. Then as for hardware losses, so 3 tanks, 21 APVs, and 55 artillery. Then to take a quick peek at the territory of control stats, because I noticed a few of you in the comments querying this recently, and I'm glad you asked, because in the last 2 months, accounting for Russia's recent gains in the Donbass, total occupied Russian areas of control amounted to almost exactly a 0.1% increase of their Ukrainian-controlled lands, moving from a 18.17% mark in August time to have then reached a 18.27% mark as of today. So at this rate, it would take Russia roughly 133 years to conquer Ukraine. Now here's the kicker, because were we to include the separate land gains made by the armed forces of Ukraine in the Russian territory of Kursk, well then Russia has actually lost more land in that same period of time. But ignoring Kursk for a moment, because even if Russia doubles its pace of operations in Ukraine, it's simply not enough. So when I see the propaganda bots comment below my videos that say something like, quote, "Ukraine has lost, Russia is making huge gains in the east," is something that we see paid propaganda bots who are designed to make us think that all hope is lost for Ukraine, as they try to achieve the goal of having the West lose interest and support for Ukraine. Then we'll head across to the map today, as Russian channels distributed video footage of a jet-propelled drone over the Russian Belgorod region. This drone appears to very likely match to concept designs shown off earlier this year. Impressively, this little-known, locally developed Ukrainian entrant is just one of multiple jet propulsion variants that Ukraine operates now, which clearly have a much faster cruising altitude than that of your typical medium-range Ukrainian UAVs that enter Russian territory. Now, Russian air defenses already have significant issues with defending against the slower traditional combustion engine UAV models, meaning that this new generation of faster drones is likely to create some insurmountable problems for Russia to deal with, especially when these new variants are rolled out on a much larger and much more consistent basis soon. Then we'll head 4 or 5 oblasts north on the map as a fire broke out at the Moscow Higher Combined Arms Command School in Kuzminki. Now, the Higher Combined Arms Command School is a military academy in the capital's region responsible for training officers in combined arms warfare, which involves integrating different branches of the military, including infantry, armor, artillery, etc., in coordinated operations. No word on the cause so far, but it certainly is the type of academy that the armed forces of Russia needs more investment in, as it's an area of cooperation in their military that needs a bit more work, to say the least. Then we'll head across to the Ukrainian map today, as there's a number of early reports suggesting that the AFU has successfully advanced in Vovchansk, and on this account by making incremental progress to the northeastern direction of the town. Though so far we do wait for some further confirmations on that front. Then headed across to the southeast of Kupiansk, as Russian forces have advanced near Pishain in the direction of the Oskol River, following quite a high volume of previously failed mechanized attacks in the last few weeks. Which means we need to pull up the satellite map, because this western direction of operation could mean that Russian forces will be looking to start the grueling hard urban warfare in the area from Lashkivka to Krulykivka. Now here's a higher resolution image of an approximation of the furthermost location of the Russian forces to date, where they have been crossing tree line to tree line as a part of their rather pressing meat wave tactics. Now it looks like Russia is attempting to reach the Oskol River bridge that leads to Senkova either as a means to stop its role of logistical support for the AFU or to use as a means to cross the Oskil River with later. However, all of this green overlay we see here on the map indicates that Russia held these positions some time ago, so their military should recall that the bridge has been knocked out of action some time ago and remains so to this very day. As such, Ukraine's army receives its supplies from the north and the south, but also from across the Oskil River via means of pontoons or bridge lay-in equipment at unmarked locations a few miles north of this point, meaning that Ukraine still has a number of opportunities or different locations from which to supply its own army with. Then as for some rather compelling activity in the Donbass from over the weekend, as Russia decided to unleash one of its prototype stealth-heavy unmanned combat aerial vehicles, the Sukhoi S-70 UAV, but only to have it destroyed in combat under Ukrainian-controlled Konstantinivka. Initial Russian reports suggested that the aircraft was downed by friendly fire during a reconnaissance flight due to the loss of communication with the UAV, with Russian sources also stating that it was shot down by one of their own fighter jets to prevent its recovery by Ukrainian forces. Although I don't find that type of report very credible, especially given how they said that it was shot down by essentially another prototype aircraft, the Russian Su-57 jet, which itself doesn't see any action anywhere near Ukraine, with the one exception where it was being escorted in the Donbass airspace by two Russian Su-30 jets for a propaganda video a number of months ago. So for this latest event, the crash provides Ukraine with some valuable intelligence, as videos and photos from the scene show relatively intact parts of the wreckage, including the wing sections. Now, the use of a prototype like the Russian S-70, and only two prototypes built in total, where it's getting deployed deep into enemy territory, which can indeed be considered unusual for several reasons. Firstly, due to the risk of technology capture. Then secondly, well, typically military prototypes undergo extensive testing in controlled environments before being used in real-world combat situations. So the decision to use a prototype like the S-70 in the enemy rear could reflect a strategic choice to leverage its stealth and combat capabilities where other systems have failed due to constant detection and interception, as we've seen with all of the drone-on-drone footage in recent times. Therefore, it might indicate a level of operational desperation or urgency, where the need for its capabilities outweighs the conventional testing and deployment cycle. This event should never have been allowed to occur in the first place. I suspect Russia sold themselves on the lie of this being a truly stealthy aircraft, which we can see the fallacy in that notion now more than ever as the surface view of the wing puts on display the riveted aluminum and non-flush Phillips screws. Oh, not to mention the circular exhaust and intake design that has been widely considered non-stealthy, all of which led one way or another to the downing of this UAV in the first place. Then headed a bit further down on the map, central to Avdiivka this time, as there was a claimed double storm shadow strike on the railway and concrete construction facility right in the heart of the town. No local footage seen on this event yet, but a strike like this is clearly designed to disrupt Russian railway logistics. Then taking a look around on the map, because somewhere in the east, we saw another large explosion of a Russian BMP infantry fighting vehicle. Interestingly, this one happened across the border into Belgorod, and just adjacent to Russia's Kharkiv incursion on the western side at the settlement of Zurilovka. Then also in the east, we saw how a Russian Bukhanka vehicle was hit by an FPV drone, which happened to have an anti-FPV drone cage installed all around it. Didn't quite work out. Then after that, we saw an intercepting Ukrainian FPV drone take out a Russian Lancet drone. The wing design shape of these UAVs are typically referred to as a crosswing or X-wing configuration for added stability and maneuverability, but which may in fact make for a more vulnerable target, allowing the interceptor drone to nestle right on in there before detonating ensuring that the blast takes on more surface area. Then also in the east, a Russian Buk M2 air defense system was destroyed. All it took was 2 FPV hits, and this $15 million unit was instantly out for the count. Impressively, just the first quadcopter would have been sufficient to finish this one off. And what a devastating loss this type of event is, as Russian surface-to-air missile systems like these are truly a finite resource. This is completely unsustainable for events like these to continue to occur. And so it appears Ukrainian short-range drones are becoming increasingly less short-range, as the position of these Russian air defenses that get taken out are typically located at least 40 to 50 kilometers from the front lines. I suspect a Baba Yaga heavy drone or a fixed-wing drone type delivers the FPVs close to the locations, with the releasing drone also acting as a signal boosting relay, a tactic that Ukraine has been known to deploy in the past 6 months. Then headed across to an in-the-field Ukrainian hardware update, as Ukrainian drones reportedly dropped chocolate on Russian positions in Zaporizhia that included some sort of detonating mechanism. Now, this such chocolatey surprise evidently failed to release all of its flavor, though I am in fact reminded of you guys, those of you in the comment section that recommended Ukrainian aerial deliveries of bottles of vodka to Russian trenches. An idea that seems to have a lot of merit. Just as this chocolatey event serves a similar purpose in the way of disabling invading forces. What will they think of next? Then headed across to a quick funny to round it all off for today, guys, an in-the-field battlefield funny. As a Ukrainian recon drone watches on as a Russian soldier appears to get stuck climbing into a window. But the follow-up event to this might not have been so funny, as recon drones do what recon drones do, sending a request for a follow-up head-first quadcopter to, in this case, help give the Russian soldier the final nudge he needed to get through that window. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, all of those wonderful things. I appreciate it so much, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers!